coastline looks almost meaningless. Like when it moved, it transferred access to 66 offshore oil wells, redirect billions in public revenue, and changed the future of 2 Nigerian states. On one side was Calabar. It had one of Nigeria's oldest seaports, a thriving tourism industry, and Tinapa, a $45 million business and leisure resort built to attract millions of visitors every year. On the other side was Uyo, a modest inland city with no seaports, no major airports, and few obvious advantages. Then everything changed. After Nigeria lost Bakassi Peninsula to Cameroon, a court ruling declared Cross River State landlocked. Think about that. A state with a functioning seaport was told legally it no longer touched the sea. The oil revenue shifted to neighbouring Akwa Ibom, and what happened next is extraordinary. Akwa Ibom built an international airport, launched Nigeria's first state-owned airline, and began planning a $4.2 billion deep seaport. Meanwhile, Calabar's shipping channel filled with sediment, large vessels stayed away, Tinapa collapsed, and the city that once appeared unbeatable began falling behind. But now, Calabar is fighting his way back. Cross River is planning his own $3.5 billion deep seaport at Bakassi, the very place whose loss started this entire story. 2 neighbouring states, 2 rival megaports, barely 100 kilometers apart, and a race to decide which city will become the next great gateway to Central and West Africa. This is the story of how Calabar lost everything to Akwa Ibom and why in 2026 it's finally fighting to get it back. Are you still watching? If you're yet to subscribe to my channel, kindly subscribe. Thank you. Now back to the video. To understand what was lost, you have to understand what Calabar was. Calabar sits on a river about 45 nautical miles from Nigeria open sea in Nigeria's far southeast. For centuries, it was one of the great trading towns of the West African coast, and under British rule, it became a seat of colonial administration before power shifted west to Lagos. When Nigeria created new states, this whole corner of the country was one territory, Cross River State, with Calabar at its capital. Then in 1987, the federal government split it. The southern and the western portion became a brand new state, Akwa Ibom, with its capital at Uyo, a modest inland town with no port, no airport, and no obvious advantage. On paper, Calabar kept the crown jewels, the seaport, the history, the federal free trade zone that arrived in the 1990s, and by 1999, it had something even rarer in Nigeria, a plan. Under Governor Donald Duke, the young reform-minded governor who ran Cross River from 1999 to 2007, Calabar rebranded itself as a Nigerian tourism capital. The streets were famously clean. Calabar Carnival, launched in the mid-2000s, was billed as Africa's biggest street party, pulling visitors from across the country. And then came the flagship, Tinapa, a $450 million business and leisure resort on 265 hectares just outside of Calabar, Nigeria's first retail and tourism free trade zone with a 243-room lakeside hotel, 406 emporium of 10,000 square meters each, a film studio, a water park, and the country's only monorail. It opened on the 2nd of April 2007, financed by a rush of Nigeria's biggest banks. The projection, 3 million visitors a year. At that moment, Calabar looked unbeatable. It had the port, the party, the plan, and the sea. Within 5 years, a courtroom 5,000 kilometers away would take the sea off that list. The Bakassi Peninsula is a finger of mangrove and fishing settlements at the mouth of Cross River estuary, right at Calabar's doorstep. For decades, both Nigeria and Cameroon claimed it because the water around it owed oil. In 2022, the International Court of Justice, the United Nations highest court for disputes between countries, ruled that Bakassi belonged to Cameroon. Nigeria resisted, negotiated, and finally in August 2008, formally handed the peninsula over to the Green Tree Agreement, the deal brokered to manage the transfer. For Nigeria, it was a painful but managed diplomatic loss. For Cross River State specifically, it was something much worse, though almost nobody realized it at the time. Because when surveyors redrew Nigeria coastline without Bakassi, a legal question surfaced with enormous consequences. Did Cross River still touch the sea at all? In Nigeria, that question is worth billions. The Constitution guarantees oil-producing states 13% of the revenue from oil extracted in their territory, a system called derivation. And for offshore oil, only littoral states with coastline can claim it. 76 offshore oil sat in the waters of that redrawn coast before Bakassi was ceded. Cross River collected derivation revenue tied to them. Afterwards, its neighbors raised its hand. Akwa Ibom argued the well lays within its maritime territory. Cross River insisted it still had the coastal access through the estuary and therefore a claim. 2 states, 1 redrawn map, 76 were. This dispute went all the way to Nigerian Supreme Court. In July 2012, the Supreme Court delivered its judgment, and for Calabar, it was devastating. The court found that after the loss of Bakassi and the estuary area, Cross River State no longer had a maritime boundary. In the court's own framing, the state was landlocked, and a non-littoral state cannot claim offshore oil wells. Following the ruling, the Federal Revenue Agency, the bodies that decide which state gets credited with which well, ascribed the derivation from all the 76 wells to Akwa Ibom. Think about what that means in practice. Every month, Nigeria share oil revenue amongst its states. Derivation payments on top of standard allocations have made Akwa Ibom consistently one of the largest recipients of federal revenue among Nigerian states. A river of money that might have flowed through Calabar books now flowed to Uyo instead. Akwa Ibom had even back in 2006 offered Cross River a monthly goodwill payment of 250 million naira from its derivation revenue, and offer Cross River turned down why it still believed it could win in court. Here is an uncomfortable part of this story. The exact year Calabar was legally losing the sea, 2002 to 2012, were the exact year it was betting everything on Tinapa and tourism. One state was about to receive the biggest revenue windfall in its history. The other was about to watch its flagship project suffocate. And the reason Tinapa suffocated brings us back to the water. Calabar Port has a problem which can't be seen from the shore. To reach it, ships must travel a 84-kilometer channel up the Cross River, and that channel is starving. Where saltwater from the sea melts freshwater from the river, sediment drops out and builds up, a natural process called siltation, and on the Calabar River, it is relentless. The channel's approach draft, the maximum depth available to a ship or are sat around just 6.4 meters at high tide. Modern cargo vessels want 10 meters or more. Nigeria has tried to fix this for 30 years. In 1996, the federal government awarded a dredging contract to 2 of the world's biggest dredging firms. It wasn't executed. In 2006, the same job was re-awarded for $56 million, abandoned halfway. A later channel management venture collapsed into litigation and allegation of contract infractions. Even the engineering worked against it. Dry spoil was dumped in a deep section of the same river, and some of it migrated straight back into the channel. The result? Exporters and importers simply routed around Calabar to Lagos to One, leaving the port handling mostly liquid cargoes and a trickle of containers. And this is what broke Tinapa. A duty-free trade zone only works if goods can actually arrive and if custom policy lets shoppers take them out. Tinapa got neither had the scale it needed. Debt piled up past 18 billion naira. The state handed most of its shares to AMCON. Then in October 2020, amid the unrest that followed the EndSARS protests, the resort was looted and vandalized, the hotel stripped, vehicles burnt. By the 2020s, the city that had everything was a city of monuments to what almost happened. Meanwhile, down the coast, its former sibling was building the opposite kind of monuments. While Calabar fought the river, Akwa Ibom did something almost no Nigerian state had done before. It behaved like a company. In 2019, it launched Ibom Air, the first airline fully owned by a Nigerian state government, not a vanity project. By 2024, it was posting around 96 billion naira in revenue, with over 16 billion naira in profits before tax. In April 2026, its own base, Victor Atta International Airport in Uyo, began international operations, and on 28th of June 2026, Ibom Air opened its first international route, Uyo to Accra. And here is the review this whole story has been building to. The finance engine behind Akwa Ibom rise, the reliable outsized monthly revenue that let a state-owned an airline and planned mega infrastructure run substantially on oil derivation. including the derivation from those 76 wells, the well Calabar still insists are hers. In other words, Calabar's legal defeat wasn't just a loss, it was in part its rival seed capital. And Akwa Ibom is now aiming that capital at the ultimate prize, the one asset Calabar theoretically still owed, the region's gateway to the sea. The Ibom Deep Seaport, a proposed $4.2 billion port on 2,566 hectares, designed as a natural deep-water harbour for vessels carrying over 13,000 containers, serving not just Nigeria, but Cameroon, Chad, and Central Africa. The Federal Executive Council approved its outline business case in May 2025. The consortium of Bolloré African Logistics and Power China was named preferred bidder. In April 2026, Governor Yuno Eno received the completed feasibility report and is now courting international investors. If it's built, ship will bypass Calabar's silted channels forever because they will never need it. Which is exactly why in 2024, Calabar stopped mourning and started fighting. In the mid-2020s, Cross River government under Governor Bassi Otu reopened the case everyone thought was closed. Their argument goes like this. The 2012 Supreme Court judgment never actually ordered the transfer of the 76 wells. It said the well should be ascribed based on the proper technical determination of where they physically sit, and left that job to federal boundary and revenue agencies. Cross River said those agencies then simply assumed the well were Akwa Ibom's, so Cross River petitioned for a technical review. In May 2024, an interagency committee, including the Federal Surveyor General Office, the National Boundary Commission, and the Upstream Petroleum Regulator, conducted an assessment. According to Cross River's government, that assessment found 76 of the well lies within Cross River's maritime area. Akwa Ibom's response was immediate and absolute. The Supreme Court has ruled twice, in 2005 and 2012. The judgment is final. No committee can overrule it. The well sits within Akwa Ibom's maritime coordinates. Through 2025 and into 2026, the two governments have traded formal statements and national commentators have urged the presidency to step in before the dispute escalates. And Calabar didn't stop at the wells. It went after the deeper wound the world landlocked itself. In 2025, Cross River received a new hydrographic survey and navigational chart of its waters, replacing charts dating back to 1903, which the governor says confirm once and for all that Cross River is a coastal state. Because Calabar isn't just relitigating the past, it's building its own escape routes. Which brings us to the extraordinary situation on this coastline in 2026. Two neighbouring states, one family split in 1987, are now racing to build rival deep seaports on the same gulf. Calabar's answer is the Bakassi Deep Seaport, a $3.5 billion project at 18 meters deep enough for the largest vessel with no dredging required, backed by the financing framework with Afrexim Bank and 80% development stake agreed with UAE-based Arise, Federal Executive Council approval as a public-private partnership and a federal certificate of compliance issued in December 2025. A 275-kilometer road and rail corridor is planned to evacuate cargo towards Cameroon, Chad, and Niger. Bakassi Deep Peninsula, whose loss started this entire chain reaction, is now the site Calabar is betting on for his return to the sea. Akwa Ibom's Deep Seaport has the head start in planning and a state treasury behind it. Calabar Bakassi Port has the deeper natural draft and now federal compliance paperwork in hand. Neither has moved serious earth yet. Both are haunting the same global port investors, and analysts question whether the Gulf of Guinea's cargo can justify two megaports 100 kilometers apart. And there is one more layer. The federal government Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway, the 700-kilometer mega project tracing Nigeria's entire southern coast, ends by name and by design in Calabar. For the first time in decades, national infrastructure is being drawn towards the city, not away from it. So did Calabar really lose everything to Akwa Ibom? It's lost the wells for now. It's lost 2 decades of momentum, a $450 million dream, and on paper, the sea itself. Akwa Ibom, for its part, didn't steal a future. It built one, deliberately with the resources the map and the court handed it. But the map is being redrawn again. in survey vessels, compliance certificates, and investor term sheets rather than courtrooms. If even one of these ports gets built, this stretch of coast becomes a gateway for over 200 million people across Nigeria, Cameroon, Chad, and beyond. The last time the sea moved between these two states, it made one of them rich. Nobody knows yet what it does the second time. If you love content like this, kindly like and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.